Okay, so we've already finished our color wheel. We've talked a little bit about color and a little bit about shading so far. Now it's time to do what we call value scales. And value scales are when we take either a color or graphite like this, and we intensify the color with each step. Okay, and so what we want to do is we're going to do our three primary colors, our red, our yellow, and our blue. We're going to do value scales of each one of these. And this is going to be the emphasis on layering and the importance of layering our colored pencils. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find something that is a small rectangle shape that we can trace, or we can use our pencil box in order to create our rectangles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a small rectangle using the pencil box. I'll make a little bit bigger. That's probably about good. And you're eyeballing this. Okay, there's no perfect measurements here. All right, so I've got one, and I'm just gonna try to equally divide this into 3 boxes. All right, and you're gonna do 3 of these. So we'll start with yellow, red, and blue. Alrighty, we're gonna start with yellow. And the point of a value scale is to go from lightest shade to middle shade to a darker shade. And shades are the progression of a color, okay? Or we can call them a saturation of a color. And with colored pencil, we achieve that by layering. So that means adding more colored pencil to the surface. One thing we absolutely do not want to do is we do not want to press hard with our colored pencils. The texture of our paper, even though our fingertips have a really hard time picking up on that texture, the texture on our paper is really important when it comes to colored pencil. If you were to do colored pencil on a piece of printer paper or computer paper, you wouldn't get the same result as if you were doing it on the paper that I've provided in your kit that has these holes up at the top here. Okay, this paper is a drawing paper, and so this paper provides us with a little bit more of the ability to blend the colors. If you take a look over here, you guys may notice that in your own color wheels, you have some white showing through. That's what we call the tooth of the paper, like the tooth in your mouth. The tooth of the paper is this microscopic texture of the paper, and that's what the colored pencil grabs onto. So if you don't have tooth because you've pressed really, really hard and you flatten the tooth of the paper, you can't layer your colors up anymore. So it's important that we never, never, never press hard with our colored pencils. We will ruin the paper and we won't be able to build our layers. For each of our value scales, for the primary colors, we're gonna start in the middle, and we're gonna layer a number of times. We'll go backwards and we'll layer a little less, and then we'll go forwards and we'll layer a little more. So let's start by layering up our yellow. Let's do layer 1. Don't forget to use light pressure, circular motion shading, and we're only filling in the first layer right now. That's layer 1. Now we're gonna layer again. When we layer, we can change the direction that we shade in order to help the pigment of the colored pencil bond to the paper. As you begin your second layer, continue to use light pressure, circular motion shading, and change the direction in which you shade. This is going to help, like I said, to bond the colored pencil to the paper really nicely. Okay, there we have 2 layers. Now we're going to go ahead and do 3 layers. All right, so there I have 3 layers. I'm gonna do some labeling because labeling is important. So really small above it, I'm gonna write 3 layers. Over here, I'm gonna write 6 layers. And over here, I'm gonna write 1 layer. That's the number of layers we're gonna do in this value scale, from light all the way to more saturated. I don't want to say darker because the quality of the color is not changing. The intensity and the saturation is changing. So let's go ahead and move back and we'll do 1 layer across this entire first square. All right. There we have 1 layer of yellow. It's much lighter than the 3 layers of yellow. We can see more white of the paper for 1 layer. We see less white of the paper for 3 layers. Now let's go ahead and do 6 layers of yellow. This is going to be hard to keep track of, so if you need to make little tally marks next to it as you go, do that. I'm going to do that too. Notice how much more rich this square is down here. We have a lot more layers. We see less of the white paper and more of the pigment of the colored pencil. We have 1 more layer to go, and I want to note that I'm not applying any more pressure than I have been the entire time I'm using this colored pencil. I am also turning my pencil as I work in order to keep the point nice and sharp. But please, please don't be afraid to use your pencil sharpener as needed to keep your pencil sharp. You're going to get a lot more pigment out of your pencil if your pencil is sharp. Okay, going in for the last layer, layer number 6. Okay, layer number 6 done. Much more saturated color than layer 3 or layer 1. The more layers you lay down, the more saturated and true your color becomes. Alrighty, let's go ahead and do the same thing for red. So we're gonna do 1 layer, 3 layers, 6 layers. Let's go ahead and start in the middle by doing 3 layers. Okay, there's 3 layers. Always label so you know what you did. 3 layers. We'll do this one as 6 layers. And again, 1 layer. So let's go down and do 1 layer, and then we'll pop back up and do 6. Alrighty, we've got 1 layer of red there in our first box. We're gonna move over here and we'll do 6 layers. If you need to, go ahead and tally. I'm gonna tally as well to keep track. But go ahead and start your first layer on your 6-layer square. All right, layer 6 done. There you have it, our value scale of red. Lastly, we're gonna do our value scale of blue. So we have 1 layer, 3 layers, and 6 layers. Go ahead and grab your blue colored pencil, and you guys can start with the 3 layers of blue. I'm just gonna fast forward through this part. You guys do this on your own too. Alrighty guys, so now that our value scales are done, you should have an understanding of layering a little bit better and the result that that produces. The more layers, the better, especially considering that our paper has a really nice tooth to it, meaning it has a nice texture to it. We may not be able to feel it, but our colored pencils do. Okay, we're able to lay down more pigment by pressing lightly and building 1, 2, 3, 4, so on layers to get a much more intense and saturated color. We do not have to press hard in order to get really nice color like this. We just need to be patient and use circular motions and light pressure while we shade.